Welcome to The Real Recipe, the podcast that brings you the perfect blend of real estate trends and topics, where we serve up fresh insights and sizzling strategies. So let's get cooking.
Welcome to The Real Recipe. This is a podcast that we're just trying to throw together. It's wildly unsuccessful so far, but here we are.
See? Yeah. There's your intro.
We've had 10 meetings. We've had 10 meetings about doing this, and we've got nothing to show for it.
But we are recording, and we are probably 90%
10 steps further than we were.
This is...
And where most people don't even get to this point. So.
Right, we got to the point.
I'm happy we're at least here.
We're
going to have like 3 people watch this.
We purchased the products, and we're sitting down and using the product.
We look legit. That's most important.
I don't want to go that far.
Fake it till you make it.
Always.
We're not talking about anything specific today. All we're talking about today is what we really aim to get out of the podcast. And I think you guys should talk about how you got into the business.
I think that's fair.
I'm sure that's a riveting story.
It is a riveting story.
I want to know about the one pivotal moment in college that Jon had that convinced him
to be an attorney or to do real estate law.
To do real estate law.
I took a law 101 class. I don't know.
That's it? Your professor was that good?
No, he was terrible. He was terrible.
Really?
Terrible. It was law 101.
That was very anticlimactic.
And I didn't even want to be an attorney. I don't know. I was just like, I went to school to become a dentist. My mom made me. My mom signed me up.
Did you really?
Oh, dude, my mom signed me up. My mom signed me up for biology, like to be a bio major, so I could then go to like med school or dental school. And I was like, I don't want to do this shit.
Can you imagine Jon being a doctor instead?
So I went to Marist and took bio for like a year and a half, and then dropped out of bio because I hated it, and then went into communications because I was like, oh, sports. Sounds fun. Sports business, communications,
sure.
Public relations.
Yeah.
I like that. I did well at it.
Segues right into real estate.
Yeah.
Apparently.
When you graduate with
let me
tell you something. When you graduate with a communications degree and there's no jobs and you're like, what should I do?
Sure.
So I took my last I graduated in May of 2010. But I had to take one more class to actually like graduate. Like I walked, but I didn't get my diploma.
What was the class?
That's the law.
What was the
What was you messed up?
No. What was the class I took?
Yeah, you had to take an extra class. What, did you fail something?
No. I didn't have enough credits, like because of the whole bio thing, and then becoming a communication.
What'd you take? Kickball?
No, the class over the summer was like, I don't know, some bullshit communications class.
Intro to
communications. I don't know.
Finger
painting. Yeah, I don't know.
How'd you get into real estate law though?
Because then I was like, oh, I should probably like do something and go to law school. Like because I wanted to become a sports agent. So I was like, what do I need to do? I took sports business communications. What do I need to do to become an agent? Well, you need to either go to law school or graduate school. So I took classes for the LSAT. I took classes for the GMAT. I was all over the place.
Yeah, but why real estate law?
Oh, because after being a barber, yeah.
I feel like this whole
all over the place.
Is so all over the place.
I feel like I've found out more about Jon
in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and I don't like that.
I was a barber from the age of like 13 to 23.
Well, that I knew.
I used to cut hair in high school, cut hair in college. That's how I made a ton of money. Bartended in college.
Yeah.
And then I graduated and was like, I don't know what to do. So I was like, oh, okay, I want to go to law school. I'm going to take the LSAT. Took the LSAT a couple times. And then, I don't know, August, got a job. I put my resume out and started interviewing. And I interviewed with a law firm in the city. And they just happened to do real estate.
That's what they did.
It could have been a litigation firm. And then I would have maybe gone into litigation. I don't know.
Right, okay.
But it was a real estate firm. And then all of a sudden I loved real estate. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I worked for a bank attorney / New York City real estate attorney who did purchases and sales. And I was like, all right. I'm done. I'm done being a paralegal.
Yeah.
A, you can only make so much.
Yeah.
And B, I liked working directly with the clients. So I was like, oh, okay, I want to get into real estate. I like this. My family was in real estate. They bought properties in Brooklyn. So I was like, oh, I like this. I can do that. I can do this. I can totally do this. I just need to get into law school.
Right.
I was like, that's the problem. How do I get into law school? And you take the LSAT.
Done.
Twice, 3 times.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you get into law school. And then you have to leave your job, your full-time job, so you can go to law school full-time and be a poor, broke law school.
Everybody's poor and broke when you start in real estate.
Yeah, though. But I was living with April in Hoboken, like paying Hoboken rent at the time, which was obviously a lot when you're not really working.
Yeah, that's different. I think it's different for you and probably for you a little bit too. For me,
like how I got into it.
No, just from like when you said broke, because it's really true. When you get into it, you're broke.
Yeah. I guess
really broke.
It depends. Like I worked full time before I started doing this. Like I worked full time in college, so all my friends came home and they were broke, and I wasn't because I was working all the time. Yeah. And Dave's here, so obviously, like at some point, I'm sure he's gonna want to tell his version of the story about how I got hired in the business, which is like
recruited you?
I found Jacque in a dumpster in an alley.
She was in a back alley in a dumpster.
She was in a back alley. I saved her. But I went to school for sports marketing.
Did you? I didn't know either.
Rutgers. Look at that. And I already worked full time, but I did my internship at the Prudential Center for Devil's Arena Entertainment. And then when I graduated, unfortunately, all the entry-level positions were paying way less than like what I was already making.
The entry level positions were paying like $30,000, but they wanted you to have 10 years of experience.
And you had to work. I mean, you would go there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you'd stay until the events were over because it was year round. It wasn't just like hockey season. Yep. It was at the time
12, I think 14-hour days.
Like they had like the nautical concert series, so every concert you had to be there until like cleanup was done at like 2-3 a.m. And then I graduated and I worked at a private center doing sports and sports sales and marketing while working full time at the gym. And that's how I met Dave, because my mom owned a gym for like years and years and years.
He found her in the back alley of the gym.
Yes.
In the dumpster.
So Dave was coming in for years, and my mom had known him forever. And for the longest time, like I had no idea what Dave did. I thought he was a lawyer. I'm like, this guy just shows up in a suit every day, or a broker. I don't know what kind of broker, broker, attorney. But
he brokered something.
He brokered something.
He's got it.
But he was like, you should really apply here at a title insurance company. And I was like, I was like 22. Like, who even knows what title insurance is when you're 22? Yeah. But I'm like, it's sales, whatever. I think that like if you can interface with a client, like a customer, sales is sales. I don't know. So I mean, for like 2 years, I didn't know what I was doing. Sure. They pretty much just, I think that's they bring you to an office and you're like, all right, call some attorneys. Yeah. You're like, oh, no problem. Yeah. Had I called Jon, like when I first started the business, clearly it would have been a lot easier because I can't even take him seriously anyway. But I feel like a lot of the...
I'm a pretty serious individual. By the way, real quick about like client interface, like being comfortable around people, communicating, being a barber taught me so much about how to like perfect like client service, like having like top notch,
how to talk to people, how to like
because like what's the most awkward thing when you're a guy going into a barbershop sitting in a chair, a 30-minute haircut where no one talks. And I was never that way. Like I grew up in I grew up in Brooklyn, and then we all were like very outgoing kids, so I just naturally felt I naturally fell into being able to talk to people. So like sitting there as like a 13-year-old, who the hell is going to trust a 13-year-old to cut their hair? Yeah, there are people out there, crazy.
Well, and it is funny too, because you do go. When I go, sometimes I'll just randomly go in and do a walk-in, and you get like some of these. Just point, like you get like a barber or maybe a hairstylist do the same thing. Right. Won't talk to you, and you're like.
You feel bad.
Hey, how's the weather?
You want to talk to them.
It's cold out.
Throw it out. Throw out. How's the weather? I don't care. Well, something.
Right?
Like, Yeah. And that was like, your first couple of clients, you sit there and they're like, it's not how's the weather, it's can you cut hair? Can you really do this?
I think that's the most interesting part about this business though. And when I first got into it, I was way younger, but I felt like all the people I was working with were older than me. Yeah. And now people are getting into real estate like while they're in college, like when you get out of college and they're becoming successful at a very young age. But everyone almost came from like this different background or like a prior career. And generally most of them are customer service careers. But now it's different because I feel like no one knows how to, especially post-COVID, no one knows how to talk to each other.
No, and customer services in this industry.
If you could be a barber, if you worked in the food service industry as a waiter or a waitress, if you worked in a gym, I mean, you've pretty much met every single type of person there is to meet. You've met everybody, so you can pretty much deal with any client or work with any client.
And you have to have that personality to be able to work with all different types of clients. Yes. You're not easy clients are great, but it's the clients that are not easy that you just need to be able to manage.
Yeah, that is an entire conversation.
I know. I just had this conversation. I had this conversation last night.
45-minute conversation just on that alone. Yeah.
You have to be able to manage a lot of different personalities, whether it's clients, staff, lenders, title companies.
We haven't heard from Ryan.
Drama queens.
Yeah, how did Ryan get into?
I'm the least dramatic person in this room.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from Ryan.
I might be the most dramatic person in this room.
You are.
You think so?
I think so.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Out of the two of you,
my wife would say very dramatic.
Yeah, probably.
She's right. She's probably right.
She's definitely right.
She's always right.
Jon is sensitive and dramatic.
Jon is sensitive and dramatic. That's nice. See, that's a good combination.
It's okay. I'm a sensitive guy.
I can tell. You look like it.
It works with my first-time home buyers. I'm caring.
See? Yeah. Very empathetic.
I'm very empathetic.
See, that's nice. You got to have that.
You have to have empathy in this business.
Quality in this business.
Sensitivity and empathy in this business go a long way.
Let's go with that. Yeah, let's go with that.
So how did Ryan Merritt get into lending money to people?
Yeah, Shylock. I got into it because I was in the stock and bond business early on. So when I was in my mid-teens, I started selling car stereos. So this is kind of a long journey. So you'll
car stereos.
Yeah, you'll see the journey here in a second.
People sold car stereos?
Yeah. Because look how old I am.
I know. Jesus.
That was a thing back then.
This is one of those things where you find out Ryan's actually like 65 years old.
Right. Yeah. And I have amazing genes.
because he's Irish.
I'm only 48.
He's got the blonde hair, light features. Yeah.
So when I was young, I was very successful doing that. And so I'm 18, 19 years old and making like 60, 70, 80 grand as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old.
God,
what?
Yeah, like ridiculous money. Blew it all, by the way.
Early 90s?
Yeah. 92, 93, 94.
What?
Yeah.
$60,000 selling car stereos?
The amount of commission you'd make on those things was phenomenal. Because back then it wasn't just a stereo. It was the stereos, the speakers,
the amplifiers,
the wiring, the whole setup.
You got the bass set up.
Come in, some kid. It
so you set up like the guy's trunk with speakers.
Right, because back then in the early '90s, that was more of a thing than it is nowadays.
If the car didn't shake when the bass hit, then
Ryan's like in a parking lot and someone walks by. He's like, "Hey guy, come here. He opens up the trunk.
Did you work at like Radio Shack?
No, I worked at.
Do you remember? Oh wait,
it was called Atlantic Stereo.
Where'd you grow
up? Freehold, Howell.
Was the Whiz a thing?
Oh, back then, yeah.
You remember the Whiz?
Sure.
Yeah, the Whiz.
Crazy.
Do you remember the Whiz?
We go way back, yeah.
The Whiz. I mean, growing up in when you grow up in the city, you have all those, but the Whiz was it was a store. Radio Shack was like Best Buy, but the Whiz, you'd walk in and that's where you got your radio system. You got everything.
Yeah. Circuit City.
Circuit City. But the Whiz was it was cool.
You got
that
Crazy
Eddies.
Eddie's.
Got a story about it. I have a crazy story about Crazy Eddies off the podcast. Okay. I don't want to put it out there right now.
All right, that's good.
They may or may not be like a client for.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got started in my career, and so when I was doing that, I met some guys that I met some people, and we started doing this. I also started selling on weekends. We would go to these trade shows, so all the motorcycle trade shows, or all the motorcycle runs that they would do. They would have these big events, and so a buddy of mine, his father made leather vests, chaps, all kinds of gloves and all this stuff. So we would go to these trade shows and we would sell all this leather there.
So you sold leather too?
Yeah, I did, dude. I hustled when I was young. I was absolutely hustled.
Stereo systems and leather.
Yeah. I didn't wear any of it. I didn't model any of it. So you could.
We're so boring compared to Ryan.
Yeah.
I was not expecting.
I was like, oh, she's like, I was in sports comm, worked for a gym. I'm like, I was a barber. He's like, I sold stereos and leather chaps.
So when I was at one of these events, I met a guy who owned a small, stock brokerage. Not like
Jordan Belfort.
No, not that bad, but they definitely did some stuff that was out on
boiler room,
out on the fringe. But So this guy, you know, I kept seeing him at these trade shows, and he was like, man, he's like, I love your energy. He's like, you could really sell. He's like, why don't you come work for me? So I got into the stock business and started doing, you know, got my, you know, 63, Series 7, 63, 65, whatever, and started doing that. And then after a couple of years, I kind of figured out like, hey, this probably isn't on the up and up. Some of the stuff that we're, not that they were doing like anything like crazy bad or crazy illegal. I just felt like they weren't as forthright as they probably should have been. So then I'm starting to manage a small book of business, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me go to like a big firm. Let me go to like a Payne Weber. At the time, it was a big firm. So I go to Payne Weber, and I go to Payne Weber over here in Florham Park, right on Campus Drive.
Yeah,
huge office. And so they wouldn't, even though I had been in the business for a few years, they wouldn't hire me in as a broker. They wanted me to go into their training program. Because of the firm that I was with, they didn't want me to be.
They're like, were you trained?
Yeah, you weren't trained.
They were.
Well, you were trained, but you were trained to do something different than what we do here.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, but now, mind you, I'm in their boardroom. I'm in a desk that's probably 3 foot by 3 foot, and I have whatever, a handful of clients, and I'm cranking out like 30 or 40 grand a month in commissions. A couple months in.
I feel so poor when I talk to Ryan.
So a couple of months in, the branch manager comes over to me and he goes, hey, come talk to me. He goes, listen, we don't really do that kind of business here. He goes, I get what you're doing. He goes, but that's not really what we want you to be doing, all this fee-based business, all this wrapped accounts. You know, we want to manage money. We're not looking to be a stock trader. If you want to go be a trader, this is not the firm for you. So a couple more months go by, and I'm still doing my thing, and eventually I'm like, this is just this. I didn't like the money management aspect of it, because I felt like I was just going to sit there and do nothing. Like after a while, it just was boring to me. Like, I liked the activity. Well, I was
going to say it's not as active as trading.
Yeah, and I was making money. I was making money for clients, you know. So I happened to be talking to one of the other brokers in the office, and I was just, you know, lamenting about why I just wasn't in love with what I was doing. Yeah. And he's like, why don't you go do the mortgage business? He's like, the mortgage business is you're killing it right now. The mortgage business. So I'm like, that's interesting. So he hooks me up with a friend of his who owned a small little brokerage firm over in.
Oh, look at this!
We have a special guest.
Yeah, special guest.
So he has a small little brokerage firm over in Fairfield. So I go meet with the guy. The guy's a super nice guy, really sharp. He had a good process, and he needed help. So I come in, and that's kind of how it started. It was just it was just transition.
What year was this?
It was 2000.
2000. Okay, so you were like.
No, 2000, actually 2001. Okay. Like it did in the fall of 2001. Nice. Yeah.
I feel like everyone ends up getting, like, coming from a business where they're sale related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into real estate because, sales.
Yeah.
But like, even graduating law school and then taking the bar, I had friends from law school who would call me up, like, their first year at their firm, and they're like, dude, I don't understand. Like, I didn't go to law school to become a salesman. I'm like, I get it, but if you want to be, of value to your company, like, you got to bring in business. And how do you bring in business? You got to sell your brand, sell yourself.
Sure.
So like, people don't realize you go to law school and you're getting into sales.
Everything.
Unless you're going to be that attorney who goes to work for a large firm or whatever size firm and just be a workhorse. And all you're gonna be that attorney that all the rainmakers come to and just drop their files on their desk to be like, all right, work this file for me. I need to get back out and hit the pavement and go bring in more deals. And I'm like in the middle. Like, I like to work on my files and deal with the clients directly, not do like the day-to-day administrative stuff, right? That's why we have paralegals and legal assistants. But like, I love to be out there and marketing and networking.
I love that, and I love that too. What I find sometimes with that though is that actually hurts in many ways sales, because you spend so much time trying to counsel people and trying to advise them on certain things, and it becomes this balancing act of I need to help you, but I need to get paid. Right? Like I can't spend an hour with you on the phone. Like, I can't spend 2 hours with you on the phone counseling you on what an FHA loan is, or what a rider is.
Especially if you spend that time with them and then they end up going with like another lender.
Oh my God.
Ryan, I just want to say now. you were amazing.
Yeah.
But I went with
Yeah, because I was giving you 5.75 and somebody gave you 5.5.
Whoever, yeah.
I mean, really? I mean, so that is.
And then you get the closing disclosure, and they're getting charged 0.5%.
Yeah,
they're paying for it.
That does happen, but it's really more of just the. And the same things are happening to the agents too, and
that's part of sales too. Is that rejection?
Yeah,
it's not even rejection.
It's not rejection, but
I think it's a social thing now where a lot of clients, especially a lot of younger people, and I think with so much information being available on the internet, that people don't value, us anymore,
right.
or hold us in the same light as they did years ago. That's what's different about commercial. On the commercial side, I think the residential side, absolutely, the client will leave you for an eighth of a point. For $100 less in fees, they'll leave you. They'll go to the next guy. On the commercial side, it's kind of more old school in that way, where they love the relationship, they need the relationship. You may not always be able to do the deal for them, but they know that you're the guy to call when they have questions, and when they come to you, you'll get it
commercial
done.
clients are way more loyal.
Yeah,
because they're more savvy.
Yeah. So that was kind of my journey. I mean, and then over the years, I've just held every position in the mortgage business. Whether it be from owner, all the way down to, I've held. I have a dedicated. I'm a DE underwriter. I don't know, although it's not probably active anymore, but I've been an underwriter in the business.
Right.
Held control positions in companies before. Worked at big banks in the city. Worked at small banks. Developed. A lot of these. One of the reasons why I do a lot of commercial business too is because. I've helped develop over the years a lot of these non-QM programs at banks.
Yeah.
So I'm very intimate knowledge of all the mechanics behind the scenes on how that stuff works. Whether it be in capital markets and secondary and stuff like that, selling these loans and stuff like that. So.
So what made you want to do a podcast?
I don't know.
Whose idea was this originally?
I don't know. I think it was probably some. I've been pushing.
I've had start a podcast on my New Year's resolutions for the last 3 years. I swear, I have, because I'm everyone's doing it, and if you're not doing something like this, then, everyone in at least all the big people in our industry are on social media. Everyone's doing social media. It's everyone's doing a podcast, and it's if you're not doing it, then you're not within.
See, I don't think everybody's I mean, I think they're doing it, and
I won't say everyone. Not everyone's doing it,
but people are doing it, and I think they're doing it for the sake of doing it.
Right.
I think. At the heart of it for us, I think
I'm not doing it just to do it.
Our heart's in the right place with what we're trying to do. It's not just I'm just trying to be an influencer or trying to do something. I don't want to try to get.
I don't want to be an influencer.
Well, look at what we do every day, though. I mean, and John and I do a lot of this, or we do the seminars all the time.
Yeah.
Or even if you're going out to lunch with clients and you're talking about specific programs, or bringing people in to do introductions. I mean, I think that's more so what we're gearing it towards.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're just talking about ourselves right now, but moving forward, having
it's
people
the intro,
on and talking about the business.
Is it the pilot episode?
That's the pilot.
Yeah. I'm hoping that
what's below a pilot episode?
This.
Right. I mean, look. I mean, I think we need to just figure out what our agenda is going to be, and just put out some good content, have some fun with this.
No, so real quick, the goal of the podcast and why I want to create it is to give value. That's what, every day. That's the goal. When I speak to clients, when I speak to agents, when I speak to lenders, title company, whatever it is, I want to make myself valuable.
It's easier. And what's funny, to your point, it's easier to do it this way, I feel like, nowadays, than it is. Even like a phone or even like an email or a text.
Yeah.
It's that becomes white noise for a lot of people nowadays. But if you send them a video and a video link, or embed it in an email, or send them a quick text, or do something like that, or an Instagram reel or something like that, people can watch what you're doing, and take it in a small chunk and get the content that you want to give them and be able to see you and create more empathy, right? And create a lasting relationship that way, rather than, hey, how you doing? I'm a lawyer, I'm a title, I'm an attorney. We're awesome. You should use this. Right?
It also gives you the opportunity to see us from a non professional standpoint.
We have a lot of good guests and content. So.
We have a great guest coming on right now.
Yeah,
we do. He's amazing. He loves dinosaurs.
Jacque, any last words?
Any last words? You want to say something to the group?
Poopy butt.